Christmas is coming. The lights are shining, the weather is getting warmer, and suddenly the world seems to transform into a magical place full of joy and good vibes. But have you ever stopped to wonder about all the secrets behind Christmas traditions? Why do we use so many red and green decorations? Or where did the figure of Santa Claus as we know him come from? Today, you'll discover Christmas secrets that will change the way you see this magical season. And the best part, many of these curiosities have more to do with history and symbolism than you might think. To start, did you know that Christmas was once banned? That's right, forbidden, and we're not talking about ancient times. It was in the 17th century in England when a group of Puritans decided to attack the celebration of Christmas, which they saw as a festival filled with excess and pagan practices. Just imagine, the streets of London, usually full of festivities and joy, were deserted and somber during Christmas. That's right, they believed the holiday was an outrageous mess of indulgence with pagan roots. To them, all of it was nothing more than a debauched party with no spiritual value. Churches were ordered to remain closed, and even shops were forbidden to open. Families stayed home trying to secretly maintain their Christmas traditions, while outside, authorities patrolled the streets looking for any sign of celebration. It was as if the Christmas spirit was being hunted as a public enemy. Anyone caught celebrating, whether with a party or even a simple dinner, could be imprisoned. And this didn't just happen in England. Authorities in other parts of the world also took drastic measures against Christmas. But, as always, history has a way of turning the page. The people, of course, didn't back down. Gradually, they began to resist the prohibition. Underground churches started holding secret services, families gathered quietly to celebrate, and merchants, though afraid, sold their Christmas goods behind the scenes. Christmas, as always, could not be forgotten. Fortunately, this harsh prohibition didn't last forever. In 1660, with the fall of the Puritan government, Christmas was restored. And from then on, little by little, the celebrations returned to the streets, to homes, and to hearts. However, there are still more shocking things to reveal. For example, have you ever thought about the reindeer that accompany Santa Claus on his magical journey around the world? Rudolph, with his bright red nose, and the other 8 helpers, all have a secret. What if I told you that Santa's reindeer might actually be female? That's right, you heard it correctly. This isn't a mistake in adaptation, but rather a curious biological fact. Believe it or not, science backs this up, and contrary to what tradition has told us, this little detail makes perfect sense. Now, let me explain. During winter, male reindeer lose their antlers. They shed them at the end of autumn, well before Christmas. But the females, they keep their antlers until well after the holiday season. And guess what? They're the ones who keep their heads held high throughout the winter. So, the logic is simple. Since Christmas is celebrated at the end of December, when reindeer are in the height of winter, the males have already lost their antlers, and only the females are ready for the job. In other words, Santa's famous reindeer, including the adorable Rudolph, are probably Rudolphas. But why is this important? Well, aside from the biological factor, this curiosity makes us reflect on the stories we tell. The image of Santa and his reindeer has always been seen as an enchanting tale, but this little detail shows us that even legends can have hidden truths. Perhaps you'll never look at Santa's reindeer the same way again. Who would have thought that the true power behind the sleigh might be a little feminine, right? It's nature's way of saying, look, the magic of Christmas isn't just about what we see at first glance. Behind this legend, we find a connection to the real lives of animals and the cycles of nature. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. How about we take a trip to the past? It's 1914 in the midst of World War I. The sound of weapons, the screams, the land scarred by destruction. The trenches are filled with exhausted men covered in mud and under the constant sound of gunfire and explosions. The war seemed endless, but in this scene of despair and violence, something unbelievable happened. On Christmas 1914, British, French, and German soldiers emerged from their trenches and met in the middle of the battlefield. What happened next could be the plot of a movie, but in fact, it was a real event. Enemy soldiers who had been fighting fiercely just moments before simply stopped. They left the trenches and began to talk. what seemed impossible happened: a Christmas truce. In the very heart of war, the magic of Christmas made the unimaginable a reality. In the middle of the battlefield, where there had been only blood and pain, the sound of laughter and a ball being kicked echoed. It was an improvised game, a football match on Christmas 1914 between mortal enemies who for a few hours became friends. And the most incredible part? There were no orders for this. Nothing was planned. Only the Christmas spirit, a mysterious force, brought those men together as nothing else could. It was a moment of pure humanity. It didn't matter that they were enemies. For a brief instant, they were all united by something greater than war, something that could not be stopped by trenches or military orders. This story, which feels like something out of a fairy tale, shows us a powerful truth. Christmas is more than just a date. It's an energy, a force that transcends differences, erases hatred, and for a brief moment reminds us of the best in our humanity. That Christmas of 1914 stands as proof that even in the darkest moments, the Christmas spirit can bring hope. Sadly, after that unlikely truce, the war resumed. But that Christmas of 1914 was etched in history, reminding everyone that no matter how fierce our enemies may be, they are still people like us. Now, let's dive into one of Christmas's greatest secrets. How well do you really know Santa Claus? Ah, jolly old Saint Nick. We all know the image of Santa Claus, that man with rosy red cheeks, a wide smile, and a belly that resembles a sack of gifts. But what if I told you that the real Santa Claus was actually very different? The Santa we know today, with his red suit and friendly demeanor, has little to do with the original. His story is far more complex, mysterious, and even a bit unsettling. The real Santa Claus was a bishop named St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas was a thin, stern man with a demeanor that was anything but the festive vibe we associate with Christmas. He was a religious leader, and his fame came from his generosity, not his charming appearance. What truly set Nicholas apart were the acts of kindness he performed, such as helping the poor and especially children. He saved many people from desperate situations, like the story of a father who couldn't afford dowries for his 3 daughters. St. Nicholas secretly threw 3 bags of gold through their window, ensuring they had a future. But, of course, no one knew who had done it. His generosity was as silent as it was surprising. The transformation of St. Nicholas into Santa Claus happened much later. It began in the 19th century, thanks to literature and, of course, advertising. Santa's image started to shift, becoming a more friendly and welcoming character. This evolution was amplified by a famous advertising campaign from a major soda company, which portrayed Santa wearing the red suit, sporting a round belly and a cheerful smile. What's even more impressive is that this image of Santa was so powerful that it spread worldwide, creating a new idea of what Christmas was. So what you see today, the jolly old man delivering gifts, is an invention that combines St. Nicholas's generosity with a touch of modern marketing. But in addition to influencing the image of Santa Claus, St. Nicholas also started another tradition. Have you ever wondered why we hang stockings by the fireplace at Christmas? The story goes that in a small town, there was a poor father with 3 daughters. They were living in dire circumstances, and the worst part was that the father had no money to pay the dowry required for his daughters to marry, as was customary at the time. Imagine the anguish of this father, not knowing what to do to secure his daughters' futures. Without the dowry, the young women couldn't marry, and without marriage, their destiny was bleak. They would be forced to live a life of suffering and humiliation. But then, legend has it that on a cold night, St. Nicholas, who was well known for his good deeds, heard about the family's plight and decided to act. However, he didn't want anyone to know about his act of kindness. He didn't want to be recognized. He sought no glory. He wanted to help in secret. So, what did he do? At night, while everyone was asleep, he approached the family's house, and knowing that their stockings were hanging by the fireplace to dry, he simply filled them with gold coins. Imagine the family's surprise the next morning when they found those precious gold coins. With that money, the father was finally able to pay the dowry and marry off his daughters, giving them the chance for a dignified life. This act of generosity and secrecy by St. Nicholas spread quickly, And the tradition of leaving gifts in stockings gradually took hold until, much later, it became a symbol of good luck and prosperity at Christmas. So the next time you hang your stockings by the fireplace, remember, you're part of a tradition that isn't just about receiving, but about giving. And who knows, perhaps this simple gesture might also bring a bit of the luck and fortune it represents. Who knows, besides fortune, those stockings might help you find love. But when we talk about love at Christmas, we have to remember mistletoe, that green little plant with its tiny white berries that pops up everywhere during the holiday season. Let's go back in time, way back to the era of the Celts, the ancient inhabitants of Europe, who had a deep respect for nature and believed plants held magical powers. In Celtic culture, mistletoe was far more than just any plant. They believed it had powers of fertility, healing, and even protection. Imagine that. To them, the plant possessed such powerful energy that it was used to ensure the well-being of families, the prosperity of crops, and the protection of homes. A true lucky charm. But when Christianity arrived and spread across these lands, something interesting happened. Mistletoe, which until then had been seen as a pagan symbol, was adapted to fit the new religious context. It began to be associated with peace and love, a way to bring harmony among people, especially during festivities and celebrations. But what really changed the fate of mistletoe was the romantic gesture that continues to enchant couples around the world today, the kiss. The tradition of kissing under the mistletoe started spreading in 18th century England as a gesture of good luck and affection. Each kiss was seen as a blessing, a promise of happiness for the couple. And of course, the more kisses, the more luck and love were wished for the new year. So don't waste time. Go kiss someone under the mistletoe. Christmas is a magical and joyful time, and you deserve to spend it with the people you love. Now, with everything you've learned, it will be impossible to look at this time of year the same way. Those little details, the traditions you've always followed, the stories you've heard since childhood, they all have a fascinating origin, full of mysteries and surprises. Now I ask you a question. Which of these Christmas secrets surprised you the most? If you know any Christmas secrets that no one ever told you, share them with us. Let's create a real exchange of stories and traditions, because Christmas is made of these little discoveries and what we can share. But before you go, there's more. If you like these secrets and want to know more about what the world has to hide, don't forget to leave a like down below. It helps the channel grow and bring even more curiosities to you. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Merry Christmas and see you in the next video.